Good morning. How's everybody doing? Happy Thursday. Waking up? Well, glad everyone's awake here. Glad everyone is here. No real big announcements to make. I'll be sending out stuff pretty soon about the Christmas barbecue, the fellowship on December the 13th, I believe. It's at your place, so you should know. Anyway, I'll send out information about that in the coming weeks as we get prepared and tell each group what you're supposed to be bringing, and make sure you get as many people as you can to show up because we have such a good time. Otherwise, just same old, nothing big. Just a reminder about the YouTube channel and Zoom if you can't make it, but otherwise, just keep on studying Mark and keep having a good time. I'm wearing Texas Longhorns today, and yes, it's a black Texas Longhorns jersey. Real quick about two reasons why I wore it. First of all, I know like Chris Del Conte and others have always said, we're never going to change anything. We'll never wear anything except for the orange and the white. I kind of like the black personally. And I've always seen, going to so many practices through the years as a sportscaster, I'd see quarterbacks wearing black. I'm like, wow, kind of like that jersey. That's pretty neat because they'll wear different jerseys in practice. And it always makes me think of Notre Dame and the fact that there was one big Notre Dame game, I forget who they were playing, USC or somebody, where they came out in warm-ups wearing their traditional navy blue jerseys and go into the locker room. And when they run onto the field wearing their lucky green, the crowd went crazy and they got a big upset win. If Texas did that, coming out wearing black against Ohio State next year or Michigan or somebody like that, everyone would go crazy and could do something good. But I'm not in charge. So anyway, the reason I wore it is because of Texas OU. Because I was lucky enough to go to more than 20 Texas OU games. The first one was up in the upper left in 1990. And quick story about that game is Texas had lost all 4 years when I was in school in 85, 86, 87, and 88. And I wasn't here in 89. I wasn't a sportscaster here. I was in College Station. But I come back here in 90 and I'm covering the game and Texas gets the last minute, not last second, but last minute touchdown pass to take the lead. But Oklahoma still has some time on the clock. And they drive down to about the 25-yard line or so. And on the last play of the game, they try a 42-yard field goal. And I'm on the side, kick's going this way. And as I see it going, and again, I'm a Longhorn. I went to UT, and I'm supposed to be impartial as a media person, but I want Texas to win, especially since all 4 years that I was in school, they never won. And I'm watching, and I see the ball go up, and oh, they lost. And then the crowd goes crazy. I realize it's because it went wide to the left, but I couldn't tell from my point of view. So I was like, oh yeah, they made it. Oh wait, I got to work. Okay. So let's work. All right, let's stand and let's sing. God, fall afresh on me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Living God, fall afresh on me. Let's pray. Oh, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for all that you do for each and every one of us in this room. Thank you for this community. Thank you for these great men. And thank you for Mark and what he is guiding us through right now as we encounter Mark 5 and a huge, huge lesson today. We bless everything in your name. Amen. Okay, this is all about Mark 5. We're all of Mark 5. Next week, we're splitting up Mark 6 because it's a long chapter, but this is all of Mark 5. And if you read ahead, and hopefully some of you did, it's kind of like a horror movie. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just kind of interesting the way this plays out because it starts off with Jesus meeting a man with an impure spirit. This happens more than 20 times, by the way, in the New Testament, where he meets somebody or sees somebody with an impure spirit, and he heals most of them. Well, this one's name is Legion. The name may sound familiar because he's also in Luke chapter 8, and Legion is a common name for the people with the impure spirit. I had this idea that I wonder if that's where Legionnaire's disease came from. I looked it up. It wasn't. So, I tried, but it didn't fit. But anyway, he was demon possessed. So Jesus told the demons to come out. Didn't do anything special, just said, come out. And they did. They went to some pigs, the demons did, and they were drowned. Demons went away. So the man with the impure spirit, Legion, was healed. Well, Legion wanted to go with Jesus now. Jesus has saved his life. Jesus has changed his life. So he wants to go with Jesus, but Jesus says no. Because he was a marketing genius, wasn't he? He said, no, I don't want you to come with me. I want you to go out and tell everyone what I've done. Tell everyone that I've driven this impure spirit out of you. So that's basically what he did. He went out and he told everyone. Meanwhile, Jesus keeps on working. He goes on to heal a sick woman who had been bleeding for 12 years. Think about that. This woman had been bleeding for 12 years and heals her. Then he finds I don't mean it that way, but he encounters a dead girl and brings her back to life, even after the people who were with her laughed at Jesus. They said, your daughter's dead. Why bother the teacher anymore? Well, Jesus didn't care. Jesus kept on working and brought her back to life. Jesus knew what he was doing, but think about the horror movie aspect of this demon, this sick woman, this dead girl. I'm telling you, think of a horror director, and they read Mark chapter 5 and said, this is a great movie. Let's put this together. What Jesus is doing is continuing to let people know his power and let people know that believing in him can change your life. So we're going to do things a little bit differently today. We're going to talk for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. We'll see how it goes. We're going to talk about we'll call them the facts that are in this chapter. And it's basically fairly simple about the impure spirit, the sick woman, the dead girl. So here are 3 questions to talk about at your tables. How does the transformation of the demon-possessed man, Legion, inspire you to believe in Jesus' ability to transform lives today? How can we use our own healing experiences to spread the good news like the demon-possessed man? And how might you have reacted if you were a part of the crowd witnessing any one of these miracles? So we'll talk about that for 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll hit the biggest verse in my mind of this chapter. All right. All right, what did everybody think? Sorry to interrupt the discussion. How'd the discussion go? Any one question stand out to any table? Did it change the world? It's just interesting, I think, to think about. It's easy to look in hindsight 2,000 years later and say, oh, well, sure, that makes complete sense. But at the time, if this was happening today, there'd be so much skepticism by everyone. And take technology out of the picture, and they didn't have TV, internet, cameras back then, but everyone would be looking at it so closely and prove this to me. And some of that had to be happening back then. But I want to talk about what I think is one of the greatest verses in the Bible because it can be, I think, life-changing. I mentioned earlier that when he was bringing the dead girl back to life, people laughed at Jesus. At one point, someone said, your daughter's dead. Why bother the teacher anymore? And Jesus replied, don't be afraid, just believe. Don't be afraid, just believe. Yes, this has to do with Jesus, the dead little girl, and bringing her back to life. And yes, but expand that. into your life and the fears that you have. And you may not want to admit them, and I'm not going to ask you to stand up and admit them right now, but think inside about what you're afraid of. We're all afraid of something, many things. And I'm going to put them into two different groups. There's one group that unfortunately we cannot control. We basically cannot control. We cannot control the fear of something that's a medical emergency, basically. We cannot control something that has to do with, the proverbial hurricane, tornado, flood. Unfortunately, we can't control that. There's so many things that we cannot control, and that's where we just have to believe. Okay. We just have to believe. Believe in God, believe in Jesus, and believe that what happens is going to happen the way He wants it to happen. But there's another fear that we all have, stuff that we are in control of. And many of you may not want to admit to it, which is fine. I think it'll be helpful if you do at some point. But we all have these fears that hold us back. And we have to not be afraid to just believe. Believe in ourselves. Believe that when we fall, Jesus is there to catch us and help us. And I could give you thousands of examples of this, but I'm just going to use church as an example, just as an example. But think about church. If someone, and it may have happened to you, if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, do you want to be a deacon?" Is there a little bit of fear there? And I know there's a lot of deacons in this room, but is there a little bit of fear there about, I don't know if I could do that? Same thing with being an elder. Ooh, that kind of scares me a little bit. Now, you may not voice that, but deep inside, whether it's in your heart, in your stomach that suddenly is in a knot, I don't know. If I ask any one of you, like next week we're studying Mark 6, the first half of the chapter. I'd like for you to come up and do the presentation. Who has a little bit of fear about that? Seriously. And yet, you get up here, and trust me from experience, okay, Caskey's going to do it. You get up here, and I tell you from experience, and God talks through you. That it's amazing what can happen if you don't be afraid, just believe. We're short a pastor right now. What if Jill comes up to you and says, "Wow, December the 6th, we really need 7th, we really need somebody to do the sermon. Do you mind coming up and doing the sermon?" Just 8:15, 9:30, and 11. It's only 3 times. Can you do that? There's going to be a lot of fear. And yet, what are you doing on something like that? You're just talking about what you believe in. And I could go, those are just church examples since we're here at church. But there are so many things that are easy for us to do when we're right here. But when we take a step over here, suddenly we're scared about it. We don't want to do it anymore. We may not want to admit to this fear, but we have it. Don't be afraid, just believe. Because if you don't, if you keep that fear inside of you, it can change your life, and not in the best of ways. I'm going to give you a couple of personal examples. When I was growing up, I was a pretty good student. And when I got to high school, I made really good grades. And when I'm a sophomore, after Christmas, first semester, second semester, however they want to describe it, they come out with our first class rankings. And I'm one of 3 tied for number 1 in my class of about 600 kids. And which I was kind of proud of. I was like, that's pretty neat. I think that'd be pretty neat to be number 1 in my class. And all of my friends start ribbing me, saying, "Oh, Mike," because they knew how shy I was and knew I was a huge introvert and rarely talked in class, most classes. And so they started giving me trouble about, "Oh, you better get practicing for that speech. Valedictorians have to give a speech." Graduation's 2.5 years away. And yet my stomach is like this. I'm like, I can't do that. Oh my gosh. So then forget about it. And then the next day, somebody else would rib me about it. And it bothered me because of my fear. So what did I do? In April, when it's time to sign up for, register, however you want to call it, I mean, you're picking what classes you're going to take the next year. I purposely chose to not take honors American history because I knew that would keep me from being number one in my class. My fear did that. Now, there's no guarantee because I stopped taking German, so I didn't take German 3 and German 4. So I would never have been valedictorian because of that. But my fear stopped me from doing that because I didn't believe. We all encounter things like that you have to just trust Him and know that it's not like you're doing something amazingly athletic, out of this world, skydiving, rock climbing, whatever it is, like, oh, I couldn't do that, I'm going to fall. No, just everyday stuff. It kind of goes back to, can you stand up here and teach a lesson? Can you stand up here and do a sermon? It's just talking. Every single one of y'all talk. I talk, maybe shy, but I talk. I could have easily given a valedictorian speech, and yet my fear made me take that away. But I learned my lesson from that. I always wanted to be a sportscaster. From my early days, I've told you before, at one time I wanted to be quarterback for the Cowboys, right fielder for the Rangers, and a sportscaster all at the same time. But when I got here to UT and started taking classes, I realized that, kind of sinks in your head like, oh, wait a second, to be a sportscaster, I'm gonna have to talk in front of people and on TV in front of thousands of people. Doesn't go very well with someone who doesn't like to talk and, what am I gonna do here? I could have easily destroyed that dream. But I realized that it's just talking. I tell people when I coach them today, all you're doing is talking. You talk right now about something. Okay, now do the same thing either on the stage or on camera. It's the exact same thing. So I finally figured out, okay, I'm just gonna look at that camera and I'm gonna picture somebody who loves listening to me, who, when I'm talking something good about the Longhorns or the Cowboys or the Oilers or whatever it is, they're going, yes, 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 yes. And they're smiling. I'm not looking down and I'm seeing Caskey going, what's he talking about? And it worked. And I was on TV 30 years because of that. But had I not believed, A, in myself, and B, that Jesus is right here beside me and ready to catch me, not if I fall, but when I fall, that would never have happened. But there are probably so many things that have gone on in your life or are going on right now in your life that's something easy, relatively easy to do, but there's just a little bit of fear because it's something like standing on a stage or having a frank discussion with someone or going out of my way to go see somebody or whatever it is. There's something that I know is bothering you. It gives you a little bit of trepidation, a little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety, that knot in your stomach. Let's get it out. Don't be afraid. Just believe. Let's look at some questions. What causes you fear? How can Jesus help? How has fear paralyzed you in the past? They laughed at Jesus about the dead child. How can you use Jesus' strength when someone laughs at you? Thank you.